Let's talk a little bit about, we talked about this last month a bit about the idea of defunding police. And let's move to the next step. Let's say those funds are reallocated in some way. What's job one, do you think, specifically for young people right now? What's job one for that money to assure prosperity for them, good health for them, safety for them in the future? And jump in, whoever would like to.
Well, I think we should Daniel first.
Yeah, so for me personally, I feel like if you were to give us money or things like that, I feel like the first thing that we should get, because if you look at a lot of county schools and schools like that, they're giving their kids laptops to have and things, electronics to have to help them for their education. And if you give us that, we have no excuse at that point to not do it because we have all the tools. So if you give somebody the tools, then they can work with them. But if they don't have the tools, then now they got to go out here and try to find something. They got to go to the library. Now, if the library closed too early, now where they're going to go? They got to find somewhere new. So say me, okay. Say if I didn't have a laptop. So after school, I might go to the library in school. Okay, that closes at maybe 4 o'clock. Then I might go to the library around near in my, my community. Okay, they might close at 8 o'clock. But me, I stay up till 2 in the morning doing work. So what I'm gonna do from that 8 and 2 when I don't have no laptop at all? Now I'm looking like, well, I guess I gotta try tomorrow when I go to school to get this done, but I still got more schoolwork coming in every day. So now that's like, I'm gonna be behind on this, so I gotta do this, or I'm not gonna do this, so I could do this. But that's just put me in a bad predicament. And that's why so many kids don't do good in school, and that's why so many kids get bad grades, drop out, things like that, because they don't have the tools, and the schools aren't putting enough effort into them so they can be great, so they can do what they have to do. But the school wants you to do it, but won't help you do it. It doesn't make sense.
To the Senate President, is this the kind of response that you hear in your emails and things that you get from constituents as far as young people go?
Right now, yes. I think there has been an enormous amount of attention on the disparity of access that exists for particularly here in the city. But I think that this is unfortunately not just a city problem. I think that the lack of access to resources or the disparate access to resources is not entirely unique to the city. It's acute, but it's not the exclusive place where we have this disparity. And something that I think is the challenge for all of us at the moment. The council president, soon to be mayor in Baltimore, and I were had a conversation recently with the police department. And since the unrest, and even in the last 5 years, you look at the last 5 years, calls for service to the police have not declined. So there are still the same number of calls coming into 911 for police on a daily basis that we've had over time. And so on a day-to-day basis, the department is still getting requested as much as it was previously. Mm-hmm. And there's not a clear dispatch alternative when the people of a jurisdiction are phoning in to say, this is what we want. And then the alternative doesn't exist. I think that's the crux of the problem here. And that's
I would push back respectfully against that, because one thing that I think that we do a lot in these conversations is we talk about, there's a pretty cool example over here that, it's got some cute data, but it's not really the scale. Or there's this organization or this person over here who is doing some great work, but we can't really quantify whether or not they have the bandwidth to be able to handle a citywide response to an issue like that. Right. But if that's the argument, then we're never going to have reasonable alternatives that we can keep in, because they're not invested in. You know what I mean? When you look at how our money is allocated as a municipality, it's not going into these solutions and seeing which one, given the proper support and bandwidth, would be best for the city. It's just going as a default to policing and to different constructs that have never worked on a citywide level as far as addressing the root causes of the problem. If we can agree that once the police are called, the already been committed. Once the police are called, the act is already taken place. Whatever we're talking about doing as far as investing in the police is investing to a response to the problem and not a solution to the problem. So until we can actually have a realistic conversation about not just what the root causes of these problems are, but who are the organizations that are doing the real work? Because the next conversation, that's why I get frustrated a little bit during conversations like this, because this is just the conversation that's the tip of the iceberg. The next conversation is the difficult one, because that's the conversation that entails bringing all of these people that are a part of the solution together and figuring out what the most effective way of redirecting some of this funding and resources is. But until we can at least agree on the basic premise of the first discussion, that we can't even get to discussing solutions. So I want to see us be a little bit more intentional in these conversations about acknowledging that these organizations do exist.
And Brittany, coming off of that, remind folks of the benefits, the fruits of the labor that come from investment in young people, because that's the life you're living right now.
We're trying to live, because we still need investment to that point. So the big thing I think what Erin is saying is being proactive and not just reactive, and that's the programming that we see. So as B360, we've been able to serve over 7,000 students with Brittany Young behind it as the meat and the muscle and the bones of financial contributions. With the government behind us, we could expand to more cities, gain more capacity, grow our leadership, expand to more young people, and serve 700,000. So I think it's those type of solutions, and the same thing with Baltimore ceasefire. If we always approach it from let's call the police once the situation gets bad, we'll have more Breonna Taylors, we'll have more George Floyds, we'll have the list can go on, the hashtag can one day be me. But if we approach it from how do we elevate the voices in our communities from the people that's doing work, who already have a handle and a grip with working with young people, old, etc., we're going to grow. And I look specifically, like you said, fruits of labor. We have the same bottom line as a Dirt Bike Police Task Force. We want to move people out of traffic. It's been 7,000 so far who have committed to not riding the streets, right? So if we have the same economic or revenue gained from the city, we can just keep going. And that's the labor, right? It's a labor of love, which I give to the city because I love it, but it's also just speaking on the power that we have as people from here, because I can relate closer to dirt bike riders who look like me, as opposed to sometimes Common Daniel was saying officers, because that tension. And even Mr. Jefferson, that too, if we don't want over-reliance on police, why don't we give Black leadership who's doing work with Black individuals more respect, more power through financial gain?
Well, listen, I want to thank the six of you.
Jason.
I feel like if we see more people that look like us, we'll be able to listen more. Mm-hmm. We'll feel more comfortable and more safe, because yes, this police officer might come to help, but if I see a Black man or Black lady come to help, I feel like I'll put my eyes closer to them quicker, because I'm like, well, they understand. They might have been through this. You get what I'm saying? We can have more of a conversation compared to this police officer that's just here to de-escalate the situation.